Welcome to U.S. Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
The New England Free Jacks, Major League Rugby champions. One-on-one to score.
Here are your hosts, Phil Baker and that other guy.
Good evening, everybody. If you're tuning in live, it's definitely good evening. If you're listening to this podcast, it could be any time of the day. No matter what time, at 5 o'clock somewhere, 5 a.m. somewhere. Welcome to the show. I'm Bill. This is Fitzy. We are Dos Amigos or something. Is that a new thing?
It is now. Let's test our Spanish.
Sí, that's all I got.
Cerveza.
Fitzy, how you doing? Yes, it's good to see you. How's it going?
Good. It's been an interesting week. You know, school's done for the kids, so now it's pure chaos at our house. So they had routine, and now they have no routine. So yeah.
Of course. I don't know about you, but up here we're in the Boston area. We're in like this huge heat wave.
Same.
It was like 96 degrees today.
Yeah.
I had a golf tee time scheduled at 11 a.m. and I canceled it yesterday because there's no way in hell I'm playing golf in the middle of the day.
I don't know.
With the heat wave. But I played at 6:30, 9 holes.
Wow.
And I did lose like 3 pounds in sweat still. But
Let's go.
Yeah, it's all for this. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sorry I cut you off there. I apologize.
Don't do that again. Go on. Well, no, I was going to say our guest later in the show, Kristen Dyer from Houston Sabercats, USA Eagle 539, I believe it is.
Yeah.
He's a fitness, I won't say freak in a bad way, but he's a great fitness freak, and nutrition-wise is amazing.
Yeah.
Stuff I should probably follow.
Guy ran a marathon in the off season.
Yeah, what's that about? That's crazy. And you know what? Also, listeners, this weekend, look for Eagles Overseas on social media and also Rugby Morning on social media. We are announcing ticket giveaways for both the USA men's games in Chicago and D.C.
Yeah.
Fitzy with Rugby Morning is giving away 2 tickets to each game. I think, actually, is it 4 tickets? What is it? I forget what it is.
4. I thought it was 4.
4 tickets to each game. So maybe we're going to be giving away 2 sets of tickets per game. I'm doing the same thing. So if you do the math, that's like 85 tickets. Okay, 16, I think it is. Anyway. Either way, stay tuned sometime this weekend. We will be posting ways how to win those tickets. It is short notice. The games are coming pretty quick, so it's tough for someone who lives on the West Coast. But, you know, and if you can do that, if you can work it out, go ahead and follow our instructions on how to win. And also, Fitzy and I will be at the D.C. game.
Yeah.
And if you win those tickets, you've got to find us. We want pictures with you at the game, and it will be a blast to see you.
May I interject here, Bill?
Go.
For that DC game, right? It's a Friday game, 6:30 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah.
If you're in town for the game, I haven't announced it yet, so this will be the first time. I'm trying to do an official, unofficial little gathering before the game at a local place just down the street. I'm thinking Dasha Beer Garden. It's right on the Anacostia River. It's a 7-minute walk to Audi Field. They've got a nice little outdoor area. Good gathering place. It's dog friendly. It's kid friendly. I'm going to show up with my 2 boys, have a couple of beers. I'll be wearing probably a Rugby Morning t-shirt. Come find me. Let's go hang out. Let's have a couple of beers before the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I come? Am I invited?
Bill, of course, you're always invited, man. Come on.
Also, we are trying to work it out where we're going to do some live. We're going to offer you live stuff during that weekend, either during the game, before the game, at the event. A couple pints there. Okay. And if you're in the area, like Fitzy says, join us. And if we're live, then of course join us live on the air. So working on that, working the details out, and if we can, you know, get that, I think it's like $10,000 sponsorship to make this happen. We'll work or $10. Either way. So Fitzy, we got a lot to talk about. Let's talk about
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Before we get into this, I promise this. Rick Meyer, if you're out there listening, and we are going to share this as a podcast episode. Rick, all the way out in the state of Washington, he listens to the podcast. He follows us on social. Apparently his boys are playing the Cascade Union Rugby Select Team. This is U19, U16, U14. They're headed to Montana for the Great Northwest Challenge Rugby Tournament next weekend, I believe, or it's coming up. He's wondering if we could give the kids a shout out on this episode. So kiddos from the Cascade Union Rugby Select Team. Good luck at the Great Northwest Challenge Rugby Tournament.
That's
Boom.
great. Yeah, good luck to those guys. How old are they? How old is that team again?
U19, U16, and U14. So
Oh wow,
yeah.
all of them great.
So they're really not
Yeah,
kids, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
yeah. Good luck
Everyone's a
to them.
kid to me.
So I did change my next read here. We need to talk about our sponsor, which the read has changed, but we do want to talk about our new sponsor really quick because they're taking care of us and we need to take care of them in certain ways. Ladies and gentlemen,
Bill, when you're done, look at the first.
ladies and
content.
gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that the summer is officially upon us. Wicked hot up here in the Boston area. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're well groomed. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. See what I did there? The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep cool while looking hot.
You changed the line.
I did. Join the 10 million men worldwide, and women, I suppose, who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. You can get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code Rugby Happy Hour. That's one word, Rugby Happy Hour. Summertime, and the trimming is easy. Yeah, baby. Also, listeners, please like, follow, and subscribe us here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever else, or on your favorite podcast player. Tonight's show will be posted tonight, actually, not tomorrow. We're going to get that done right away tonight.
Wow.
So check it out. Share this podcast with your friends, etc., etc. That was tough. All right, jumping into it, Fitzy. The 30-man USA roster came out recently. The 30-man, men's Eagles roster came out recently, and reserves as well for the 2 July tests. Romania, July 5th in Chicago, and Scotland, as we just talked about, July 12th in D.C., your backyard. And then the Pacific Nations Cup versus Japan and Canada later in the summer in August. Lots going on. And quickly, speaking of Japan, USA Women just announced matches against Japan leading up to the WXV1 in August. So they're going to get some great competition, great warm-ups going into extremely tough competitions with New Zealand, England, other matches, other teams that they're going to be facing head-to-head. Really tough matches. So you went through the roster, Fitzy. We're going to go position by position in a minute, but let's get your overall thoughts on the selection of 30 players. Let's go first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would say MLR heavy, right? Of course.
Yeah.
If you look at it, which I think is probably, if you talk to a few folks, that's the goal, right? To get a lot of the Eagles coming out of Major League Rugby. I mean, look on the screen right now for our listeners who can't see it. Yeah, it's MLR heavy. Should we start with the props?
Yeah, let's get into the props. So I'll take it. I'll start off with that one.
Yeah,
I agree with you also. I think it's a good sign for MLR. We don't have as many players overseas right now, so the players who do have, I think a couple of them are at form, or one or two of them, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So going for the props, the 5 props selected is Jake Ascaro from Old Glory, Jake Turnbull from Anthem, Paul Mullen, Utah, Alex Mon, I never get that right, RFCLA, and Nate Silver from Legion.
Yeah.
Out of those 5, there's little experience. Paul Mullen has 34 caps. The rest have 3 and 6. Jack Ascaro has 6 caps.
Yeah.
That's a very inexperienced front row. And I had a conversation with Paul Mullen after the game this past weekend at the Free Jacks Utah game. He's excited about it. He feels really good about his other teammates at the prop. I'm a little worried about that strength up front, especially going against Scotland. They have a very strong touring side. What are your thoughts about those 5?
Yeah, I think Jack Ascaro has been playing really well for Old Glory DC, and I think Jake Turnbull has been really pulling in some massive shifts for Anthem, right? There probably are 2 strongest. I like Paul Mullen a lot. He's got that experience. He's been around a bit. I hate to bring this up, but the one player that is missing there, David Anui, not sure where he is, because he's a young prop with a ton of experience, right? Both captain, also in top 14. But you ruck up with the guys that you have there. Okay, so I think this is a great opportunity for a lot of these guys to get a ton more caps, right? So let's go.
Yeah, 100%. And this is when we need to do it. Nothing's really on the line with these 2 matches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, world rankings, but we're not going to go any lower than 17, even if we lose to Scotland. Hookers. Let's move to hookers. Overseas experience. It's good experience overseas. However, Micah Sissene, for a guy who also played for Old Glory at some point, he's probably right now the most experienced overseas player.
Yeah.
I'm excluding Dylan Fawcett right now because he's local. He's domestic. He has more caps than Mikey or KP, Capelli Pifoletti for Saracens. Dylan is a workhorse. Even at his age, he plays so tough. I love him. Mikey, 7 tries this season with Asian. I always get that wrong in the Pro D2.
Yeah.
16 appearances, 8 starts. That's pretty impressive. Those
horse.
are playing minutes.
Yeah.
In a high level league. Capelli Pifoletti hasn't played since January.
Coming back from injury?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. Actually, to tell you the truth, I don't know. We're very secret about it, but he hasn't played a while. So you're taking these guys.
I think Mikey right now is probably the top on form hooker for the men's Eagles. But I mean, a guy like Dylan Fawcett, you know what you're getting with him. You're going to get every single minute he's out there on the field. He is going to bust his hump. And I'm sorry, that type of energy, that type of work rate is what you need. So I really like the trio of hookers that I almost said Old Glory that the men's Eagles have. I think this is a strong group of experience and just guys that get around the park quickly and want to mess you up. And that's what you need. You need a bulldog as a hooker.
Right. Locks.
Yeah.
Most experience on the team is at lock as far as caps go. Greg Peterson is the captain of the USA side going into these 2 matches. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah.
That man logged serious minutes, which is really tough at lock back over in Premiership and URC. Cam Dolan, getting up there in age, but still a quality player. 67 caps, the most in the team. Bryce Campbell, the center, is second with 45 caps. But, Peterson's right there. He's a workhorse. He loves being in San Diego. Renger van Uten from Breve. I'm not very familiar with him. I know he has 21 appearances this year. He had 5 appearances when they were in top 14 the prior year, so he has some experience.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite players is Jason Dam. He only has 1 cap, but he's so versatile. He can play loose forward also.
Yeah, I think with Jason, we've seen how RFC LA has kind of started playing him at lock, and I wonder if that was because, Scott Lawrence was like, hey, can we try our boy Jason here at the lock position? Because he has played in the back row. He has played 8-man for so long. In fact, when I started seeing him at lock, I was like, oh, this is an interesting experiment. Of course, RFC LA has, Semi Kunatani, who's been playing really well for RFC LA. This lock position, I mean, big physical guys that can get around the park. Greg Peterson, crusty veteran, is not a guy I'd want to line up against. Right. And I'm intrigued by Ringer van Erten. I don't think I pronounced his name correctly, and I apologize. But the experience in Pro D2, my French is terrible. But sorry, pardon my French, if you will. But I'm excited to see what he brings to this squad.
All right, then jumping over to flankers. Let's go outside, loose forwards, flankers. I'm actually really excited about this bunch, despite not many caps. Okay, there's 5 caps between Sam Gola, Ben Bonasso, and Patty Ryan, and 9 from Jama. I think Jama Schultz plays like he has 19 or 20. I really do. I really like Jama. He's had some tough times at MLR, obviously, with cards. Agree or not, he's had tough times.
Yeah.
Patty Ryan, he came off the bench for Coventry only 4 times since April 5th. And I have a feeling that's because he did commit to San Diego Legion. I don't think he was injured. I think because prior to that, he was playing a lot more. He's starting at least half of his games. And since joining Legion, 1 start and 4 appearances. So he's I like him a lot. He's a younger guy. He's quick. Ben is also, I love Ben Bonasso and Sam Gola. I love this flanker bunch.
I couldn't agree more with you. Sam Gollum, I'm super excited for him at flanker. He's coming off of an ankle injury surgery, but he played in that brutal, really playoff intense match of Dallas OGDC last Friday, and he came off the bench. He looked good, though. It's good to see him out there running around again. You mentioned versatility. He can also play lock. Obviously, that's where he played in college in his first year with Dallas. But a lot of these guys, right, Jama, Ben Bonasso, they have played 8-man if need be, right? And not to skip ahead yet, but if you look, there's only one number 8 on the roster, Thomas Tuaval. But all of these guys who are listed as flankers here are just guys that play physical and play with an edge. And I think you need that in test rugby. We need, guys who are proverbially are going to bite your face off. And what I mean by that is they're just going to play hard and physical, because that's what you need in test rugby. You need flankers that are just going to get around and knock you down, because that's what we need.
And get a card once in a while, whether it's just hard play. It's just bad luck, and it's going to happen. And you mentioned a second ago, only one number 8 listed on the roster, Thomas Tuaval. But there are other players that are very flexible to be number 8s. Who are those players?
guys that are currently the flankers that are listed, or
Yeah,
guys that
yeah,
are
currently on this 30.
Well, yeah. The Jamma's played it for Old Glory DC. Ben Bonasso was filled in at number 8 for Miami when Manuel Ardao was suspended for a little bit. So they've got other guys, other flankers that can fill in at number 8 if need be. So I think there's versatility there, and that's probably what Scott Lawrence was thinking when he selected, that group of flankers. Obviously, we have got more than one guy that can play number 8. Like, come on, Sam Gala.
yeah.
You can throw Sam Gala out there. I bet he'd chomp at the bit to play 8 man.
Oh, and he just get playing time.
Yeah.
All right, jumping out. Let's get towards the backs. Scrum half. This is a position that I'm a little worried about. Ruben DeHaas, he has 31 caps for USA, but he only played 35 minutes back in September. He hasn't played at all, really. But he's in the program. He's getting great training in this time, but he's not playing. JP Smith, he's not capped yet, but he's a hell of a player. Basically two South Africans playing for USA here.
Right.
JP's 30. Ruben is still pretty young also. I don't know. It's a tough position. I don't know what to think about scrum half right now.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up that they're both South African. South Africa's had some pretty good scrum halves over the years.
Oh, they've had a few. Yeah,
they're pretty good at that position. Yeah. Ruben DeHaas, right? He's coming off ACL reconstructive surgery. It sounded like that went pretty well. I'm excited to see that his name is included. Yeah, he probably needs some more minutes, probably just for himself, just to get the confidence back and the legs back. So we'll see if another scrum half might be added if Ruben DeHaas does commit to their Romania and Scotland matches. But I mean, JP Smith for the Seattle Seawolves, he's been one of my favorite scrum halves in the league. You watch that guy play, he knows what he's doing. He's got a great pass. He's got a great boot. He will come up and tackle you, and you need that at a test rugby scrum half. And I'm excited for him to potentially get his first cap as a men's Eagle. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, moving forward, let's go to fly half. A couple more positions left. 2 players on the list. This is interesting to me because these could not be too further apart as far as their situation, playing time goes. Adrian McGinty is probably the most formed player on this roster. No offense to our guest coming up soon and others, but he had a tremendous season for Bristol Bears. Yeah. Got nicked up near the end of the season. AJ 35 caps, a hell of a leader. And then Luke Carty, 16 caps for USA. I was actually surprised by that. I didn't realize it was that many. He only played 1 game at fly half this year for Chicago. I know that might have been a coaching decision, whatever, but fullback the rest of the way. So we'll talk about fullbacks in a minute. So he could have slapped back there as well. Interesting situation. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly you look at that, and AJ McGinty, I mean, we're fortunate to have one of the top, fly halves, in Premiership Rugby as a men's Eagle lining up wearing the 10 jersey. I mean, what more can you say for AJ? Like, the guy raises his hand, and he's been through so much up and down with the men's Eagle. He's still trotting out there. So nothing but respect to AJ. The other guy, Luke, I feel like Luke has had a tough season in MLR, and I feel like some of that has maybe been – I don't know how to say this, but I feel like he's been on the receiving end of some criticism, maybe a little bit too rough. I thought he played particularly well this past Monday night. Chicago playing the San Diego Legion. Chicago on a 4-game losing streak needed a win. He slotted in at number 10. They gave Adrian Carlstay the night off. And Luke Carty, I thought, played pretty well. Game manager, led Chicago to a win. Like, what more can you ask? So I think that was a little bit of a confidence boost for Luke, and I'm hopeful that things are, turning around for him.
All right, jump forward. Centers. We got a few centers out here. I like this center pairing. Bryce got 45 caps. He's captain USA. Tavit Petty's having a really good season, 12 caps USA. Tommaso Boni, I really like him, not because he was on the show recently. That helps. 4 caps. And this kid, Eric Storty. St. Mary's College, great program. I'm surprised he's not with the U20s this summer like our guest this past week. But I like our centers, a lot of experience there. What do you think?
Yeah, hard runners. I think that's what we need there in the center position. Guys are going to crash. Guys are going to come up and play tough defense.
All right, wing. Moving forward. That's not wing. Wing. I don't know, that first guy, I don't know, but
I'm excited to hear from him in a little bit.
Houston Sabercats, Kristen Dyer, 14 caps. Nate Oxberger, he's young. His body's young, 41 caps. He's electric right now. He's been playing well. Last year had a great season. Connor Mooneyham, I'm extremely excited for Connor because he's had a rough go every time he's had a chance to play for USA. Knock on wood, hopefully he stays healthy the last couple of weeks of the season, and he's able to really get out there and get his first cap for USA. What are your thoughts here?
Nate Osberger, right? Like the guy's is you ask him to play scrum half, you ask him to play wing, he'll do it. I like Dyer and Mooneyham. I'm hopeful, and Mooneyham's been through a lot of injuries the past couple of years. It'd be awesome for him to get his cap. Christian Dyer's probably got that ideal size you need for a test wing. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. You need a guy like that who's got some edge. He can slot in at center if need be as well. So excited to hear from him in a little bit.
Yeah, and having a great season too. Hopefully that rolls into these matches as well. All right, finally, fullback, 2 players in the fullback list. We talked about it earlier. Luke Carty could play fullback. We got a couple of others out there. Mitch Wilson's the only one with a cap in the fullback position with 6 caps. Having a decent season with the Free Jacks. Stefan Krimp playing with Anthem. He was injured a bit this past year with Cardiff Met over in Europe. Mm-hmm. Didn't really play since November 23. Got healthy, came over here to the States, and he's been doing pretty well with Anthem, getting his chance here with Scott Lawrence in USA. 2 starts, 3 appearances for Anthem. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this fullback one is probably one that I'm a little nervous about. I love Mitch Wilson, smaller guy, but plays much bigger than he is.
Yep.
Played primarily on the wing for New England, right? As Reese McDonald has been playing fullback primarily. I'd love to see maybe a little more game time for Mitch at fullback, but he's had some good moments wearing the 15 jersey for the men's Eagles. So, he's got good form. So, trot him out there in Romania and let's go.
And lastly, before we get to our guest, some players were missing. You mentioned David Anu earlier, Toulouse. Mika Kruse is not in. He's not available for whatever reason. Paul Asika just played this past week against New England. He's not available. Dominic Passage is going to be with U20s. And it turns out U20s will be training with the Eagles in Charlotte for a bit also, getting training together at some point. Joe Manna from Utah was one I thought was missing. Joe Tafete, not sure what's going on with him. Nafi Maafu, I'm surprised what's going on with him. I know he's been off injured over there in Europe, but he came back and played quite a bit of minutes for Barrett's. And then Siasa Mahoney in Houston. I'd like to see those guys get back in. Obviously, I know there's some age with some of them as well. Paul's beat up. Joe Tafetti's getting there as well. They've all had great careers. Personally, I want to see them back out there in the USA uniform. Anyone else missing you can think of?
Look, there's 2 matches, right? So we could see these guys in Scotland. So, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, sounds good. It's good stuff. Let's do this. Let's jump forward. All right, he's waiting for us. Let's get our guest in here, making his 3rd appearance on Happy Hour. Let's welcome Eagle number 539, Christian Dyer. Hey, Christian, how are you?
What's up, guys? Good to be here. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, man. I hope we didn't upset you with that stuff about wings.
No, I thought it was all pretty accurate.
Good. So how's it going? How are you doing these days?
Man, life's great now. I was dealing with a little bit of a pec injury for the better part of the last 5 to 6 weeks. Just came out of a tackle the wrong way against Joe Mono, actually, playing Utah. So was on the sideline on the injury squad for 4 weeks, but I'm back. I'm healthy. I'm feeling incredible, and I'm just in a good state of gratitude because you never really know how much the game means to you until you kind of get taken out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're on the sidelines watching from a distance. Now, Christian, many have said how difficult rugby trainings and fitness can be. Zero G's, for instance, you're obviously familiar with, but you decided in the off season you needed to do something that typically leads to bleeding nipples, maybe some chafing. You ran a marathon, man. What made you decide to do that?
So that game against Toulouse back in September, I tore a ligament in my wrist, and I knew I was going to be out of rugby for the better part of 3 or 4 months. And I know I probably have a nut or screw loose in my head, which led me to run a marathon. But I've got tons of close buddies who run ultras, who run marathons, who have run clubs in Newport Beach or Austin or Dallas, Texas. So I've always been involved in that community, and I've really, really enjoyed my time spent running and just being in that community of health and wellness and fitness and just challenging yourself to different extents that you're not used to. And so I knew I always wanted to run one, and that was kind of just the perfect time in my career where rugby wasn't as much the focus. It was more so rehabbing that wrist, and I wanted to get outside of my comfort zone and go do something new. And looking back, probably wasn't the smartest decision to do to try to complement my off-season rugby training while training for a marathon, because I lost weight. I lost a little bit of my top-end speed, which finally I've gotten it back. But nonetheless, one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
That's great.
Christian, what I liked so much is I was following along on Instagram. You were chronicling your marathon training. How was the training? I mean, the heat down there in Houston, it's not easy to train for a marathon.
So I was living in Dallas at that time, spent 4 months there. But I mean, it's still hot and humid in that city. But the training was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was training at a place called Sports Academy, which is really a huge NFL offseason and combine training facility out in it's near Frisco, Texas. But that was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I mean, we're 2.5, 3 hours there, speed and agility on the field, then gym work. I was training with 8 or 9 NFL free agents and just really, really learning all about how the human body can move, and just being able to compete with these athletes on a day-to-day basis was so incredible. And I definitely learned so much from it. But then in the evenings, 3 or 4 days a week, I was clocking miles. So long runs on Mondays, tempo runs on Thursdays or Fridays, and then another really long run on the weekends. And so just this accumulation of volume throughout the week continued to add up and add up and add up. And I did it at an accelerated rate. If I was going to go back, I'd love to train for 16 weeks to do it again. I really did it in 7 and 8 weeks. So I fast tracked the approach, which isn't the smartest thing, but that's all I had. That's all the time I had to do.
It sounds like you scratched that itch. It sounds like you might want to do another one or maybe an ultra. I mean, you leaving that door open?
I do want to do another one. There's a foundation that I really want to work with called the Kyle Pease Foundation, where I can push someone with cerebral palsy through a marathon. Yeah. So depending on the annual schedule this year with test matches and how I'm doing, we could potentially fit that in. Because for then I'm not going for a time. I'm just going for completion in this special moment. And then when the rugby career is over, try to do like Leadville 100 or do a high run. So I just love getting out of my comfort zone and doing physical, adventures and testing my body.
And part of that is your eating lifestyle is pretty impressive. I don't know. I guess it's got to be difficult to get to that lifestyle, and then at that point it's probably easier to keep going with it because. For me, my lifestyle includes maybe a few too many beers, but so talk about how does that lifestyle affect your performance on the pitch? I mean, it's pretty important, obviously.
Yeah, I think it all started with just the network I've built and created through some of the athletes from Sacramento, my hometown, and then obviously Berkeley, and then playing professional sport. I've just been surrounded by really, really high achievers and high performing people who know what they're doing, and so they would always feed me tidbits into their approach to nutrition or recovery or training. And as I've evolved as an athlete and as a human, I've started to pay closer and closer attention to the things I'm putting into my body. And I'm starting to realize how important it is. And I've started to become obsessed with the energy I have and how I feel mentally and physically and how I sleep and how I recover. And then obviously how I'm performing on the field as a byproduct of eating really clean, whole quality foods. And so what I'm trying to do, obviously you mentioned it through social media and portraying the marathon training, is trying to give back to the younger generation of athletes all the information that I once wish I had when I was their age. And now I'm in a position to do so. But everything I'm doing is a lifestyle. And so if you were to take rugby out of the equation, what I'm doing in the gym or running a marathon or how I'm recovering, it's all going to stay the same. And I think that's the most sustainable approach I can take, rather than trying to get on some certain diet while I'm a rugby player. And then when I'm off of it, what am I going to do? Resort back to eating whatever I want? No, I'm obsessed with how I feel. And that's kind of my relationship with this whole thing.
So I couldn't imagine if I don't know, you were at a wedding and you had to have an extra piece of cake or ice cream on a hot day. I mean, your body must go, no. When you're going to go sit down.
That's a great question. I think you would think that'd be the case, but I mean, my sister got married 2 weeks ago and I ate everything I wanted to eat. I drank beer. I still live a normal life.
Cheers.
That doesn't mean I don't get a hangover or the next day I'm not feeling great. I just pick and choose my moments when I do those things.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. We'll move on from your eating and habits and your training habits for a moment here. Let's talk a little bit USA Rugby. 14 caps, I think, if I got that right. We talked a little bit about 0G just a moment ago there. So you were named to the 30-man roster for the July test matches against Romania and Scotland. I mean, are you ready? Is 0G ready for these matches?
We had a team call today, kind of like this alignment camp setup, and I know it was through a screen, and so everyone was remote, but the engagement, the people's facial expressions from all the players and the coaching staffs, I think we're just excited to get back together. I mentioned this to Coach Lawrence the other day. When you're in the Eagles camp, it's this fine balance between anxiety of I never want to leave this place, and every time I step on the field is an opportunity to continue or to potentially get away from it, and the next man's there. But it's also this feeling of just immense gratitude and pride and honor and excitement that you're getting to play for the red, white, and blue. And so for each of the 30 men in the roster and all the extended squad, we're just ready to be back together and go play the game that we love, especially against some quality teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're as we were talking about earlier, you're part of the mix in the back three there with Osberger and Connor Mooneyham, who's uncapped. But wing, permanent position for you there, or could you potentially, if need be, slot in at center if Scott asked you?
Yeah, I think right now with where my game's at and with the evolution of the Eagles and where we're trying to go in the next couple of years, it's looking like wing's going to be a position that I play majority of the time. Mm-hmm. There's been conversations where potentially I slot in at fullback at some point, and probably not this tour or potentially in the fall. It's just I don't have any minutes there this year with the Sabercats, but I grew up my entire life in playing out Berkeley, playing the outside center position, and so there's always that option of slotting in there if I need to be, or being able to cover that position. Mm-hmm. But a lot of my time, energy, and focus right now is trying to become the best wing that I possibly can be.
So we were like, 2.5, maybe 3 weeks tops to Romania in Chicago. Eagles beat them last summer, obviously, as you know, clearly, for their tune-up to the Rugby World Cup. It felt like the fitness was better than Romania's, which was interesting to me. Are you confident that your squad can have the same success against this team and possibly Scotland? I mean, at least, run them to the end.
Yeah, no, I have all the confidence in the world to be competitive against both teams. You touched on it, playing Romania last year. We produced a brand of rugby that was fast. We got around the corner faster than them. We put tons of kick pressure on them. And from the looks of it, yeah, we were the fitter team. And that's credit to, Alex Ross, head S&C, and Coach Scott Lawrence and the guys for creating these types of, training sessions, like you mentioned, zero G, where we were training above game speed. And there's moments in those practices I can look back where I was dead. Legs, nothing in them. Breathing, heart rate at 199 beats per minute. But that's really what it takes to be competitive at the test level. And I can tell you, going into test matches with all of that training and all that conditioning done beforehand, you're super fortunate to have it. Not saying you get there and you're not tired, but it gives you that ability to continue going and get up off the ground and go again, and just these repeated efforts. But you don't get there unless you're putting in the hard work before.
When you say training at faster speeds and maybe match speeds, is it just like frantic? Like everything has to be double speed, so when you get back to full speed, it's easier? You know what I'm saying?
What we're saying is more time in play. So
right. Okay.
Playing for longer periods of times, shorter rest periods. Our intent during every part of those sessions is to be in our max effort speeds, so our high speed meters are elongated more so than a game potentially. And so we're just conditioning our body to be able to handle these loads.
Right. So earlier we mentioned about the marathons off season, and also the run you want to do coming up, which is a great cause. But you have coming up 2 more matches, MLR regular season, summer series, MLR playoffs. Then soon, late after that, is the Pacific Nations Cup. Are you looking forward to any rest in October? Or are you kind of like, okay, can I just sit down for 2 weeks and do nothing? Or is that you going right into one of those runs?
Yeah, October's a busy month for me. There's potentially a mission trip to Costa Rica, a marketing trip to Toulouse, France. In there will be some time off and some rest, and I probably need to fly home to Sacramento, California, hang out with mom, dad, and our bulldog there, and just get away from everything. But I've realized that I thrive in environments that are busy, and I have a lot of things going on, and it keeps my mind focused, and I just really enjoy all the things that I'm doing, both on the field and off the field. And so I sleep 8-9 hours a night. That's enough rest that I need.
Yeah.
That's well. Christian, let's talk a little bit some of your teammates here. You mentioned earlier just I guess maybe the new perspective gain, right, or appreciation, right, for the fact that you're able to go out there and play the sport that you love at such a high level, right, or a new appreciation because how an injury can keep you away from that.
Yeah.
So it's a guy like Connor Mooneyham, right, for Seattle, the last couple of years he's had, right, I think back-to-back ACL or reconstructive surgeries or something like that. He's called up to the 30-man roster, finally getting his chance. I mean, hearing stories about how guys are coming back from injury and you coming back right from the wrist injury, does that motivate you and others to be like, look how hard these guys are training? I'm putting in the same effort too, and I'm excited that we're all rowing in the same row. I guess. Rowing in the same. I'm obviously not a rower, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've torn my ACL. That was senior year going into my final year at Berkeley, right before the Pan American Games, and then COVID hit, and so I didn't play a game of rugby for 20 months.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And my first 15s game, my first cap was month like 22, and so you take so much time away from the game, and all you're doing is rehabbing, and you're hanging on to this hope and dream that you're going to be back on the field one day. And so 100% it gives me motivation. And I think it's just a true test of character for these guys. And you mentioned Connor Mooneyham. He's a world-class player, but he's also just a world-class human being. And I think at the end of the day, it just builds culture off the field, knowing that you have guys like that in your corner as your teammate, and you guys are both competing for spots. But going through those long injuries, I mean, there's no better way to say it than it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you're forced out of something that you love to do, and you're forced out of your career. And then some of it is anxiety, and some of it is like, well, what's going to happen when I come back? Am I going to be as fast or as strong, or am I going to be as good? And so for these guys coming back from injuries who are just relentless in their ambition to come back and even come back better than they once were, I tip my hats off to them. And I'm always grateful when I'm healthy. And I mentioned it a few minutes ago, and I'm sure it's the same way with the other boys.
Yeah. Speaking of the Sabercats, we'll get to that in just a moment here. Pono Davis called up as a reserve, the only other Houston player on the roster. But man, what a week he had last weekend for Houston. I mean, yeah. Talk a little bit about Mr. Davis.
Oh, it's funny. Minute 10, he was hanging tired. And then minute 70, he's kick chasing just like I am on the edge. It's almost like he got fitter as the game went on. But week by week, Pono Davis is improving. And some of the minutes he's put in, whether it's 5 minutes, 15, 20 minutes in the second half, he's making tons of impacts. And so I give that guy a lot of credit just for the pure work that he's put into this game and to evolve his understanding of the set piece specifically and his role on the field. I mean, he's only played rugby for 3 years? And now he's in this extended Eagle squad. It's a true testament to his work ethic and his craft and just his hunger to learn this game. And I know one day he probably will have the opportunity to represent the USA, and that's going to be a really proud moment for him.
And speaking of players like him, kind of the future, like he has a chance maybe to be an Eagle one day. And we had Dominic Passage on recently. We had Neitz Garrick on, and they're all so excited about the future of the Eagles and the program. What's your general feeling about the state of the Eagles? Are we going the right direction? Is MLR been such a great thing for direction? What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, with the Eagles, I think right now we have a lot of the right pieces finally in place. Coach Scott Lawrence is the man for the job. This guy has everything down to a T. You talk about his coaching a science or an art, and I think it's both. And I think he fits that piece of the puzzle really, really well, where he's brought in some really high level coaches to surround him. And then he just does this fantastic job of building a culture of high performance. It's a competitive environment, and there's a lot of pride back in the I guess the environment when we're together to wear that jersey. And then the other piece of the puzzle is we need quality minutes every year. We need time together in camp. We need competitive minutes to challenge us, matches that we probably shouldn't win. We need to be playing those games, and we need to be put under pressure. And all of this is funneling to that 2027 World Cup. And we saw what happened in the past couple of years. We're limited time in camp. We're limited with quality game minutes. And then when it came down to the wire, when it actually mattered, I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, we underperformed. But I think finally we're on the right track with the right coaching staff, and they're bringing in players that are competitive. Years past, I think we knew the roster was going to be the same that weekend as it was the weekend before. Whereas this year, I mean, I know for a fact every week I got to fight for my position now. It's not a no-brainer, and that's probably 1 through 23. And that's, I think, a testament to MLR, where we're in a professional setup. There's boys getting minutes every single week. They're competing for their own roster spots on their team, and so they're just getting into camp one step better, every time they're in camp. And so now everybody's fighting for a spot. It's an exciting time to be an Eagle, and especially for the young up-and-coming Eagles, where they're actually looking forward to playing for the Eagle and representing their country and traveling the world and just doing what they love at the highest level.
And speaking of one of your one of your Houston teammates, Seth Smith, the kid, it looks like he's having a blast and he was on our show the week after he debuted with you guys. Such a gentleman, so appreciative of where he is at that point. Talk a bit about this kid.
We can mention him as the kid. The guy's name's Seth Smith. He's got a lot of nicknames on our team with his,
sure.
blonde hair. I mean, you name it. But coming
Fabio?
no, that one hasn't. I mean, I think we've given him like Brock Lesnar's son or daughter a couple times, just throwing jabs at him, but he takes it like a champ.
Nice.
But beginning of the season, he didn't say much. I mean, he was just a sponge. And then he started getting minutes and he started performing, and we were like, holy crap, this kid's 18 years old when he debuted in the MLR. Because if I were to look back when I was 18, I don't think I could have done it. I just wasn't as mature as Seth is currently. And I give the kid a lot of credit. He just works. He doesn't talk a lot. He puts his head down. He does the hard yards. He asks the right questions. Now he just needs to continue to evolve his set piece game, his throwing mechanics. And that's only going to come from, spending more time with the Sabercats, spending time with the U20s, and continually being, exposed to the right coaches in the right environment. And so he has one hell of a bright future.
Yeah, agreed. It was funny. He kept calling me sir, and I was like, Seth, you got to stop. You're making me nervous. I'm not that old.
Texas boy. He's got good manners.
He does. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Houston. Man, you guys are 13-1. You clinched the top spot in the Western Conference, most table points in MLR. How does it feel to be tagged as the favorites?
Wow, I didn't know we were tagged as the favorites, but
I tagged you. Okay, how does it feel for me to tag you guys as the favorites?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think we're in an okay spot. We're not in the spot we wanted to be, which is great because we're number one and we're still hungry to get better and continue to develop our game. We've got 2 weeks left to really buy into what we're doing and continue to evolve the brand of rugby that we're trying to produce week in and week out. I think something that's really served in our favor this year is how strong our culture is in the organization. Year one, tons of South Africans came. We had a few clicks here and there. We were still playing good rugby, but off the field, we weren't as close as we are this year. And this year, it does feel like one big family with all these different cultures involved and boys from all these other parts of the world where we come together and we're really connected and boys fight for each other and trainings are super tough, super competitive. We've added a lot of quality players this year in some key positions. And just like I said with the Eagles, there's really no sense of complacence here anymore because guys could get swapped in week in and week out. And so each training session is literally a fight to start that next weekend. And so boys are having to push one another and continually to evolve their game and their craft. And we've got some great coaches behind us and we have some great support behind us. And we're really I think we've really identified the parts of our game that we want to excel at. And some may say it's a simple strategy, and a lot of fans may say it's a boring brand of rugby. But at the end of the day, it's working for us, and we're buying into it. And I don't think we're going to change it for any of the oppositions coming our way.
Now, you play in, obviously, a really nice facility, great crowd, great entertainment for the crowd, exciting to be there. What other facilities have you played at on the road? I know for me personally, I go to the Free Jacks games all the time, and they put on a great festival atmosphere for fans. What places do you go into where maybe it's tough for you to play at the the visitors' location?
I'd say Seattle is one of the tougher ones for me. I hate the rain and cold weather. It's typically rainy and cold up there. But they also, they've built a great rugby community at their stadium. They always have a lot of fans. They're loud. They're energetic. It can feel sometimes like in a hostile environment. I give them a lot of credit for everything they're doing up there. Utah is another place where it's always fun. They bring a great crowd. It's loud as well, and they chirp and they run their mouth. But the things that I don't like about those stadiums, though, is their turf. I don't think any rugby player in the MLR is going to tell you I'd rather play on turf than grass. No. And so we're so privileged at Houston to have the stadium that we have with a pure field of grass. Not a lot of other teams in the MLR have that.
Yeah.
The one team, the team that I cheer for and I go to on occasion, it's Old Glory DC. They're now the Maryland Soccer Complex.
Yeah, that was a great field this year.
Yeah, so Christian, I was at the game, and I want to say thank you because after the game was over, took the family, my son and his buddy. They had a little league baseball game earlier. We were able to meet a few of the players. Christian, they got a picture with you, so thank you very much for all of that. And certainly it was a good win for Houston.
It was a good win for us. But a definite upgrade from the stadium they had the previous year.
Yeah. So.
Fitzy, didn't your kid try to sell that photo as soon as they left? Like, you guys.
Go get $5 for it.
Christian, straight goods here. Houston is his favorite team. We go to a bunch of Old Glory games, but he loves the Sabercats. He's got a little Houston Sabercats T-shirt. So.
Might be the jersey, could be the logo. I don't know.
That's great. Or they have a player that's almost his age.
Exactly.
Anyway. All right, last thing for you, Christian. Off the field, you have your own podcast called The Chase.
Yeah.
And you have a ton of followers also on your Instagram. Can you share some of those? No, sorry. Tell us and the listeners about this podcast.
Yeah, so podcast is called The Chase. I also host another one with my agency that I work with everything I'm doing, marketing, social media, and whatnot. That's called Athletes Defined. But The Chase always was a dream of mine to begin creating content and begin tapping into the network that I've built through sports and through growing up. Sacramento, we had Blaine Scully, you guys are familiar with, Uriah Faber, UFC Hall of Famer, a few other big-time UFC fighters. I went to that gym growing up, so I was always surrounded by high-level athletes. And I think when I was a kid, I would always be on YouTube searching, like, day in the life of Christian McCaffrey or what does Tom Brady eat on a game day? So I was always fascinated of how these high-level athletes live their life. And it got to a point where, my phone, my contacts book started to have some of these athletes in there. And I was like, I need to start having the conversations with them and asking the questions that I once wish I knew because I ran out of YouTube videos to watch. And when I got to that point, I was like, you know what? Let's create a podcast where I can actually ask these questions and have these conversations and not just receive the information for me, but to be able to give it back to the broader community and a lot of other young and coming athletes and I guess high achievers in this world who maybe want to know what the realities of playing professional sport is or the realities of owning and starting a business or becoming a UFC Hall of Famer or Nathan Adrian winning 7 medals at the Olympics in the sport of swimming. And as I go and continue to build the community and continue to learn different things in human performance and human optimization, we're now building like a 10-episode health series where I bring on nutritionists and doctors and sleep experts and strength and conditioning coaches because I have such a huge interest in the human body and how we can continue to feel better mentally and physically. And it all comes down to a lifestyle of chasing a dream and crafting this lifestyle that we always tell ourselves we want to live, but I want to be able to give people the resources to actually turn it into a reality.
Have you tried to get Jessica Watkins on? Do you know what I'm talking about? The NASA astronaut?
She's not the Houston-based one, is she?
I thought she was. She played for USA. Yes.
Yeah. No. I know of her. I've never met her in person, but I would love to meet her.
You got it. You got to get her on the show. It seems like the regiment astronauts go through to be who they are. I think it's perfect for your kind of show. And
I want to get no gravity type of chamber.
Yeah.
No doubt. Christian, I'm assuming the pod can be found. Both your podcasts can be found on every major podcast player.
Yeah, mostly Apple. Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I don't really know if there's any more I could upload them to.
Yeah, I know.
Those are the two I use.
Yeah. Well, everybody, check out his podcast when you can, and also, obviously listen to this one. But Christian, good luck with the rest of the MLR season.
Thank
Good
you.
luck this summer with USA. We're really cheering for you.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Yep.
Oh, it was a blast, man. These guys are great. Christian's a good guy to have on the show. He's just, full of information. He loves talking about the game.
Yeah.
He puts us to shame when it comes to nutrition.
As I take a sip.
Cheers.
But you're right. I like how I think what I've found being around some athletes who perform at a high level, they're always curious and want to go deeper in a subject matter that is going to help them perform even better, right? So like sleep, nutrition, all of those things, all that stuff is super fascinating, right? And they always say if you can get 1% better every day, then it's going to, long term, it's going to help you out there. So I think that Christian's just a testament to just what it takes to perform at a high level and keep it going and stay healthy.
Level.
Yeah,
my wife does a great job with her diet and health. She works out more than I do. She's better than I do, and I see how it does for her, how well it does for her. And she stopped drinking years ago, which is great. I should probably follow suit, but
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon. So real quick, I want to go through a couple of these notes on here. I just popped up one for you for those people who are listening in. I'll probably cut this out, but nice little note here from a Free Jacks fan. They love the stadium. They'll be back for sure. So MSK gal.
I met a couple of the Free Jacks fans at the New England DC match. They were very nice, very friendly. So come on back. Absolutely.
Yeah, and our friend out in LA, he believes NOLA New England will be a very juicy game this weekend. I'm excited about that one too. On FS2. Yeah, a lot of that could NOLA needs a win. FS2, a lot of matches are on Fox Sports lately, so that's great. Yep. And also same thing, very promising kid from our Free Jacks fan about Seth Smith. Kid, that's funny. And lastly, let's see, there was one here. This is from my lovely daughter. Go Dad, love it.
Go Dad.
So, great show, man. Again, it's always fun talking to guys like Christian Dyer, who's like I said, he has his own pod. He's into this kind of thing too. Loves talking about the game and takes it probably more serious than anybody. Just again talking about his diet, his regimen, all that fun stuff. So, great guy, great stuff. Fitzy, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just went back. I was going to bring this up to Christian when I tagged him the favorite, but I went back to a 2024 prediction that I made on December 31st of 2023. Now this was before MLR split, before they lumped them all together and then Anthem came in and then Miami or whatever. So they had to move them back to the East and West. I predicted that the San Diego Legion would beat the Houston Sabercats. So obviously they're both in the Western Conference, so that's not going to happen anymore. But, I feel good about calling out Houston getting to the MLR final. So, yeah.
I think they're one of the favorites, obviously.
For sure.
I think right now with the way the Free Jacks have been playing, I think the East is probably a little tighter than it was early in the season. Anything can happen, especially with DC probably coming into New England if it ends up that way. But we still have 2 matches left, so it may not end up that way.
We'll see. I guess we'll find out.
We'll see. Okay, everybody, stay tuned to that. Look out for the Major League Rugby season. A lot could happen still. And also, as we mentioned earlier in the game, please like, follow, and subscribe this show. That's not the right graphic. Like, follow, and subscribe this show on your favorite podcast player or here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And please, more than anything else, share the show with friends. Get more and more people to listen to the show. We do this, Fitzy and I do this for one reason only. It's for all the cash. And it's for no cash, but we love doing this, and we love people listening to it as well. So hope you enjoy the show, and we'll see you guys again soon.